Hi everyone, it's August 4, 2021, and you're watching me, Nikki Yu, also known as Business Trader, for the Philippine Market Update. Let's begin. So I think what's most important to discuss is one company called Aboitiz Equity Ventures. We are seeing AEV reporting very good numbers. Let's read the news first. So the news states as of April 26, 2021, that Aboitiz Equity expects their earnings to hover near pre-pandemic levels already in just this year. And true enough, in their recent report, just last July 30, we all are already seeing that movement. In their first half 2021, Aboitiz Equity Ventures earnings have surged. Let's read that together. Their earnings are skyrocketing in the first half of 2021. Consolidated net income is 13.5 billion, way up from 3.9 billion pesos logged during 2020 pandemic. Power unit and fellow listed firm Aboitiz Power reported earnings of 10 billion pesos, rising from 3.7 billion pesos last year. This was primarily due to the commissioning revenue from GN Power Dinginin Unit 1, higher water inflow, higher demand, and higher wholesale electricity spot market dispatch in compliance with the must-offer rule. For those who want to understand Aboitiz Power, we have discussed Aboitiz Power as a renewable power balance act of the Philippines, and it's actually generating that much volume and that much income for the conglomerate AEV. Also, Aboitiz Power was able to claim liquidated damages for the delay of GN Power Dinginin Limited Company's construction, adding was even able to receive a final payment for the business interruption claims for the GN Power Mariveles Energy Center's 2019 outages. Union Bank also registered an 8.3 billion peso income from the period. This is a 4x move compared to 2.3 billion pesos from January to June 2020, giving Union Bank actually the first all-star market leader for the Philippine financials during the pandemic, owing, of course, to its digital banking efforts. The bank's net revenues, net interest income, and non-interest income all grew during the period, the conglomerate noted. Loan loss provisions were recorded at 3.1 billion pesos, 56% lower year-on-year, as non-performing loans have started to stabilize. The bank's non-profit loan ratio improved to 4.7% as of the end of June 2021 from just 5% as of year-end 2020. Meanwhile, the food subsidiary is seeing earnings grow 1.1 billion pesos for the first half of the year from last year's 795 million pesos. Subsidiaries are composed of Pilmico Foods Corporation, Pilmico Animal Corporation, Pilmico International PTE Limited, including Gold Coin Management Holdings PTE. The real estate arm, Aboitiz Land and subsidiaries, logged 385 million peso income for the period, swinging from a loss of 39 million pesos last year. That is a huge reversal. Aboitiz Land also logged 1.8 billion pesos in revenues for the first 6 months of 2021, higher than the 1.1 billion peso figure due to the increased construction activity for their residential businesses. The rise in sales, especially those making large spot down payments, also contributed to the increase. Their infrastructure segment, Republic Cement and Building Materials, also earned 1.3 billion pesos during this period, reversing losses of 10 million pesos during the first half of 2020. Overall, due to the stronger market demand driven by residential infrastructure segments, as well as reduced costs and increased overall efficiency, Aboitiz equity shares are actually strong as a conglomerate earnings report. In fact, we could see that for the year, in the last 6 months, let's take a look at AEV. AEV has risen from a low of 34 pesos to a high of 39.95 year to date. And so far, it is still lower from its 43.7, but you could see that we can see an undervaluation AEV. Let's take a look as well on what happened at Aboitiz Power for the year. In the last 6 months, Aboitiz Power is still flat from a high of 26.50 here on February 2021, still trading at a discount of about 15% here at 23.4. We are of the opinion that Aboitiz Power is a buy. Let's also take a look at Union Bank for the last 6 months. Take note that Union Bank is trading at least slightly up for the year from a low of about 67 pesos for this 2021. We are seeing Union Bank's income surge, and also the stock price is following with a 76 peso price. It is still well below their pandemic high of about 88 pesos, and 5 years ago it traded at that level. Okay, so Aboitiz Power, let's just take a look what happened the last 5 years. Aboitiz Power already declined from about 46 pesos to 50% down 23.4, suggesting a potential discount at Aboitiz Power's valuation. Also, let's take a look at AEV. From a high of about 60 to 70, 80 pesos, we are seeing it currently 50% with Aboitiz Equity Ventures, a large majority of which is Aboitiz Power. So a big chunk of Aboitiz Equity Ventures can actually be about their significant ownership on AP. Let's read their website. So in their website here, Aboitiz Equity Ventures is recognized as one of the best managed companies in the Philippines and in the region, consistently cited for the commitment to good corporate governance and corporate social responsibility. Looking at its business units, the largest segment is their power services, and then the second largest is their banking with Union Bank. These two comprise majority of their earnings, 10 billion and 8 billion pesos or 18 billion pesos. The rest are quite negligible. I mean, it's not negligible at a billion pesos, but still, overall versus the contribution, their overall AEV, those are really the large ones. They also are investing $10 million in Aboitiz Data Innovation. It's a data science and artificial intelligence arm, consolidating and operating across the group, promoting a data-driven culture across the organization. So it's their HR. Let's take a look at the businesses of Aboitiz Power, Aboitiz Equity Venture. So in the conglomerate space, let's see. In Aboitiz Construction, they are saying that they're specializing large civil works, industrial piping works, electromechanical works, and steel fabrication. Tsuneshi Heavy Industry is a joint venture between Japan-based shipbuilder Tsuneshi Group and the Aboitiz Group, headquartered in Balamban, Cebu. Tsuneshi specializing in shipbuilding, ship repair, manufacturing of outfitting for ships and vessels. For a company to actually rise 200-300% in a year's time, that is a significant outperformance in the company's fundamentals. Let's take a look at the movement of the conglomerate. Also, let's read further. So we are aware that the net income is primarily from a very low base last year. Nonetheless, let's see about the company's market cap, their balance sheet as well. Also, what are their plans? So Aboitiz Group is allotting 48 billion peso capex. This is significantly higher from its previous year. A bulk of it is going to Aboitiz Power's projects. Over the next 10 years, we want to invest in capacity to advance business and community in the 9 Asia-Pacific countries that we operate. We are spending 29 billion pesos because of the COVID-19. We are also investing in our country. And a majority of this 23 billion is to complete the 1,336 GN Power Dinginin coal-fired power plant in Mariveles, Bataan. Likewise, we are adding to our portfolio battery energy storage system projects, including grid stability through sufficient ancillary services. We're also in the process of adding the first energy battery storage in our portfolio, installing a 49 megawatt facility, Thermamarine, in Maco, Davao de Oro. 25 billion pesos of the budget will also go to AEV's other business units. 13 billion pesos is going to Aboitiz Infra Capital, including the bulk water supply under its unit Apo Agua Infrastructura with Davao City Water District and other water projects, also covering the construction of common towers for telecoms. Around 2 billion pesos is earmarked for Republic Cement, 4 billion for AEV for feed mill expansion, 3 billion for land banking activities and residential projects, and Union Bank will corner more than 2 billion pesos for their digital and branch transformation efforts. So separately, Aboitiz Power has also approved the listing of their 8 billion peso bonds, including oversubscription. This August 9, Aboitiz Power already got a secured listing of 5 billion peso bonds. The approval will have a fixed interest rate of 3.82% per annum. Bonds will mature in 2026. So they're selling 5-year fixed rate bonds, offering the securities for sale from the SEC. Okay, that is actually a very good use of the money of AEV, and we are seeing that cheap capital and infrastructure projects is something that most Philippine investors or even foreigners will look forward to on Aboitiz Equity Ventures. Okay, so it was something that is already happening since the first quarter, is actually a sustained momentum in the second quarter. Very good job for AEV. Okay, let's take a look at AEV. This is their stakes. They've got a 20% stake in Tsuneshi Heavy Industries. They've got 100% stake in Aboitiz Construction, Aboitiz Construction International, Metafil Global. Aboitiz & Co. has a 48.59% ownership on Aboitiz Equity Ventures, who has 77% ownership on Aboitiz Power and subsidiaries, 49.34% on Union Bank, 100% ownership in Pilmico Foods, 100% ownership in Aboitiz Land, 100% ownership in the Infra Capital, and 73% on AEV Aviation, Cebu Pradia, Archipelago Insurance, Singapore Life, AEV International, Aboitiz Data Innovation. Okay, it makes sense to actually take a look at their annual report. So let's go to their annual report. For those who are new here, I think you have to take a look at the Awesome 10X channel, wherein we featured Aboitiz Power on their balancing efforts in the Philippines about our power supply. So they actually argued that the Philippines will need 50-50. So right now it's actually 80-20, 80% being coal-fired. They want to actually increase solar and renewable without, of course, undermining brownouts and blackouts in the Philippines. Therefore, they will continue to actually operate those coal-fired power plants in the immediate next 10 to 15 years. Okay, so let's take a look on Aboitiz, 100 years of advancing business and communities. Let's see about their messages to the public. So it's been 100 years already. There's a company that is owning several stakes in the Philippines. Primarily, the power unit is the largest. You could see all of these ownerships. All of these are from Aboitiz Power per se. Our businesses, okay, we can see clearly Power is a vertical integrated and Aboitiz Power, they handle power generation, power distribution, retail, electricity services. They are harnessing power from a right mix portfolio of renewable and thermal through 47 generation facilities across the Philippines. Hydro, geothermal, solar, coal, and oil. Hydro business is a pioneer in the development of small to medium hydroelectric power plants and an industry leader in renewable energy over the last 40 years. Okay, so I think what's most important for most people is to understand whether this company is growing very well. So let's take a look on this. Financial highlights. Over the last 3 years, revenues have been around 200 billion pesos revenue. So in the first half of 2021, wherein their earnings was a whopping 13 billion pesos. Let's take a look at the revenues that they showed for their first half 2021. I'm seeing here mostly earnings reported in their quarterly report. Let's go to their sales. We can do that via going to edge.pse.com.ph and going to AEV, Aboitiz Equity Ventures. Financial reports would show to us, okay, so quarterly, this is as of March. So as of March 31, 2021, what's uploaded here is 46. So you just multiply that 50 times 4, roughly 200 billion pesos. So it's mostly there, no? Okay, company disclosures as well as dividends and rights. Let's take a look on Aboitiz Equity Ventures. Okay, material information and transactions, public ownership report, press releases. Let's take a look at these. Okay, Aboitiz Equity Ventures is able to also redeem 8.5 billion fixed rate bond early. So of course, they're doing this because they're also issuing an 8 billion peso at a lower rate at 3.8%. So this had a 4.47% per annum and a fixed interest of 5% per annum. It made sense for them to redeem all of their old bonds and refinance it with a cheaper rate. That's essentially what they're doing there. So cheaper financing rate due to low interest rate environment. Also, in the material information, we are seeing new people on their board cybersecurity committee. So they're going to replace their old members with new members. Got it. What else here? Let's read on material information. Okay, results. Let's take a look further on the first half 2021. Yeah. So we are seeing significant growth in their business power unit. So income contribution was huge here. We are seeing that. Aboitiz core net income for the first half was 10 billion pesos. So a lot of the income growth came from Aboitiz Power and Union Bank. This is significant. So these two. mostly. They didn't actually write here the total sales, but they said here that the company's assets right now are totaling 625 billion pesos. Cash equivalent is 57.6 billion pesos. Liabilities are 390 billion pesos, while equity increased by 6% to 193 billion pesos. Net debt to equity ratio was 1.1 times. Okay, let's go to their public ownership. Let's go to their list of top 100 stockholders as well. Pwede kong i-sign.
Assign daw po. Tsaka ma'am, tinatanong po, yung sa inyo po ba na-process niyo na daw po?
Hindi, nandito. I will do that. Sige,
Iwanan ko?
iwan mo na lang. I'll go there later.
Okay.
Teka. Okay, so yeah, let's take a look at the revised lists. Okay, Aboitiz Equity Ventures top shareholders. We can see clearly that AEV, the largest holder, 48% is Aboitiz Company Insiders. You've got 17% Filipino, Ramon Aboitiz Foundation 7%, non-Filipino 6%, some foreign holdings. You've got a tight-knit ownership here of as much as, let's add this together, if 17 plus 6, 23% is the public, the rest of these are most likely long-term management companies. That's why they're a corporation. Okay, so we are seeing these are a tightly held knit of owners of Aboitiz Equity Ventures. Mostly management companies with at least 5 million shares above. So you could see all of them. Each of these management owners are 5 million shares apiece. I could say that a majority of these owners are long-term investors. So these people who have ownership stakes of AEV, who own 1 million, 5 million shares, you could see even the owner's name, Xavier Aboitiz, 2 million shares, Daniel Aboitiz, 1.87 million shares, Jose Aboitiz, 1.5 million shares. So most of the owners are primarily family-based, approximately. Marie Aboitiz, 3.1 million shares. So obviously, if the owners are the family, they would like to actually preserve their wealth through actually encouraging shareholders to actually buy their company when it's low, and they might even buy their shares further, especially when they see the business units are actually performing quite well. Okay, let's take a look further on what's happening here. Is there a buyback program happening on AEV? Okay, declaration of cash dividends. As of 2021, they declared a special cash dividend here of 91 cents. Let's see the dividend history of Aboitiz Equity Ventures. So 91 cents was given in 2021, and pretty sure they've done that over the last 5 years. AEV dividend history. We've been seeing a 5% dividend yield on Aboitiz Power, so even the dividends on AEV is possible. And here, we'll take a look. Dividend history, 2021 was 91 cents. That's a special cash dividend, 1.3 in 2020, 1.32 in 2019. So imagine if you have 1 million shares, you're being paid 910,000 pesos on your AEV. So definitely not everyone has 1 million shares of AEV, but I could tell you that there are significant stakeholders who want to buy the Philippines, not as a trading format, but actually to actually invest upon it. So in the last 5 years, even if they have been receiving those dividends, you could see that you are better off buying here at about 39 pesos. Even if you didn't get it before at 60 pesos, you are getting it at quite a cheap rate nowadays. Let's take a look at AEV's market cap. So market capitalization right now is about 220 billion pesos. You saw that the liabilities are 390, but the assets is 620, and they've got 57 billion in cash. So technically speaking, you're just, if you would allow your liabilities to actually get paid over time, and assuming all the operating assets can actually earn that 13, so about 20 billion pesos a year, they can actually pay all of their assets. There's a vast book value discount right now of about 200 divided by 600, about 67%, no, from their book value alone, right? So of course, the rationale here is that they also have liabilities, but it's 1 times net debt to equity, so that's not so bad. Okay. Usually, what the market does is assets minus liabilities. Therefore, they're doing 600 minus 400 or 200 billion pesos. And then, of course, the 200 you minus 57. And so your enterprise value is essentially 150 billion pesos. Now, 150 billion pesos divided by your revenue of about 200, this is a price to sales revenue, EV over revenue of about less than 1. It's actually cheap versus your infrastructure conglomerates abroad. Usually, I get 1:1 or 2 times. So the fact that it's actually less than 1 is already a huge discount. So at 39.95, if you're interested to own a company with stakes on Aboitiz Power and stakes in Union Bank, this might be a company for people to take a look at in the Philippines. Okay, so just a quick roundup. In the Philippines, your Philippine stock index is 6,585, up 25 points. Let's just go through a rundown on your index movers. For today, index report, market value is still very somber at 4.4 billion pesos. So value trader is quite outperformers, even from an index perspective. So your ICT is 175, quite a good move. Your BDO is also outperforming, 113. SM Prime recovered, 34 pesos. URC, 135. GG Summit, 60 pesos. Metro Bank, 46. Aboitiz Equity Ventures, 40. Pure Gold, 40. Aboitiz Power, 23.4. MPI, 3.64. Security Bank, 113. Luciatan Group, 10 pesos. San Miguel Corporation, 106. Bloomberry 5.7, RLC 16.5, Mega World 2.8, Globe 1880, PLDT 12.50, GT Cap 5.39, First Gen 29, DMC $6, Meralco 2.68, Robinsons Retail 52.5, AGI 9.99, SM 964, Emperador 15, BPI 83, Jollibee 192, AC 750, Ayala Land 33.3. As for your non-index top traded names, we've got Asen now trading at 8.48, Tito is 7.35, you've got Mondenisan 15.58, Converge nearing 24, GMA 7, 14 pesos, Merimart 3.66, Del Monte suffering a drop 13.68, Greenergy is 2.67, Wilcon is 23 bucks, DNL is 8 pesos, FA is 1 peso, Green is 2.67. So those are your top traded index names and non-index names. We are seeing the general Philippine market still buying your typical nickels and ASENs. Nickel is 6.2, ASEN is 8.48. They're still hovering near their all-time highs. Take a look at that. Nickel in the last 6 months still strong here about 6.2. ASEN in the last 6 months still strong here about 8.48. You've got the outperformance of these names: GMA 7, ICT. Talked about Emperador, yes, also outperforming 15 bucks. I have to say that although there are very few winners in the Philippine market, like your Converge doing well, your Monde doing well, very few winners, but we can see that the concentrated effort of the Philippine market is for the recovery of the overall economy and not just a few winners. So we do see that the index will actually hover between the next few weeks or months within a tight range of about 6,000 to about 7,000. You are seeing that tight range here. A majority of this movement right now, as for the outperformance from a drop of about 6.2 to about 6.5, is mostly due to the rise of your ACs, your BTOs, right? So it rallied. You can see BDO rally from 102 to 113. You could see Ayala Corp rallying from about 710 to 770. Your SM Prime rallying a bit. And then, of course, your SMs rallying. We're still seeing the market is very index-based, index-biased. And as we see that there's no sustainability on any of these rallies, we are still seeing the Philippine market to be in a trading range in the short term. Okay, so let's take a look at any comments, no comments. Okay, so for those people who are wondering what they could invest in the Philippines, consider these companies: Aboitiz, Equity Power. Take a look at their annual reports. Take a look at their Aboitiz Power units and Union Bank. You might actually outperform because the income inside and the valuation are appealing for long-term investors and also appealing even to the short-term traders. So short-term traders who want to enter Aboitiz Equity Ventures and Aboitiz Power, let's take a look at these. Aboitiz Equity Ventures has a higher low already here, about 38 pesos. First immediate resistance is about 43. Longer term, you've got 50 and 60 and 70. Aboitiz Power, of course, is the core reason why it's outperforming. So you might have to see this 23 pesos bought at a higher low. Take a look as well on Union Bank. Although there's very low volume, this might actually go higher in the next few months as their earnings are actually triple, quadruple from 2 billion to 8 billion. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Awesome 10X and see you again next week. Bye.